Minneapolis City.
Post goals!
The People's Pitch Podcast, brought to you by Summit Brewing Company.
Bienvenidos, my friends. You are listening to The People's Pitch, the one and only official podcast of your Minneapolis City SC. As always, I would be Nate, and I am joined by the Rick to my Morty, John Bisworm. John, tensions are high in the world of city fandom. How are guys like you and I supposed to keep a level head?
Just playing good soccer, Nate. Also, Spanish, we're not playing VSLT this week. I don't know what. Kind of dropped the ball on that. We already played them twice.
I missed the week where Spanish was acceptable.
Yeah. This is we're going to Dakota.
You know I did win their raffle, John.
I know you did. But Nate, how we keep our tensions lower and our heads high is two awesome practice sessions this week. One on Monday and one currently going on Wednesday. And we just get down to business and we get to Dakota and we come home with 3 points. But before we talk about ourselves, I want to mention a couple things. The U.S. Open Cup. They bitch slapped us in the face and kicked us out, so we clearly can't be in this round right now. But there's only two non-top level professional teams in the tournament, one of them being FC Cincinnati, whom you and I, featured on our merchandise podcast that we did.
Yeah, we did.
And tonight they ended up beating the Chicago Fire in penalty kicks. And the reason why I wanted to mention it was, first off, congratulations. You're welcome for the People's Pitch podcast bump because you went on a run right after we featured you. But congratulations to Mitch Hillenbrand, who was the backup goalie and had some spot starts for Minnesota United. Now the full-time goalkeeper at Cincinnati. 17 saves, Nate, and saved 3 penalty kicks to win 3-1 in penalties over Chicago Fire. And we're talking Chicago Fire's full team minus Dax McCarty, who's at the Gold Cup training with U.S. national team. So Schweinsteiger played, everyone else played, and good amazing on those guys. I know. So, I mean, not that I needed another reason to promote a team from Ohio where I was born, but I'm fully on the bandwagon of the Dutch Lions in Cincinnati.
Nice. Well, as usual, fans, we've got a ton of NPSL North soccer to talk to you about tonight. On the agenda are an Aris recap. We've got a recap of our Duluth FC match. I'm going to give you an NPSL North snapshot. We'll take a little tour around the table. We've got a little bit of an injury report that we'll work in there, as well as the preview from this week or for this weekend's Dakota Fusion match.
So, speaking of Aris, Nate, well, it looked like they're going to need another year in the NPSL to get a win versus us.
Yeah, that's fine with me.
And most teams, actually. We talked about how this could be a trap game as they kind of are coming off of some not so lopsided losses during the weeks leading up to our return leg against them. But Nate, it was the same old shit.
Yep.
They showed up with some high school boys, and we put the pedal down, and we did what we were supposed to do. So let's just get right after it and get onto the meat and potatoes of the show instead of the fringes here. So who played for us? We had Elder, AO, AJ, Trey, and Nick Hines in the back. Steve sitting in front of them. Center midfield of Samo and Wexler. And then Whitney, Connor, and Miles across the front line. We had Big Game James making his first full appearance in a league match, and he got it in the second half, which we'll get to a little bit. On the bench, we had Hoof, Martin, Abdallah, Will Kidd, and Timmy Wills. So like I mentioned, basically the game went how we thought it would go, but let's just run down. It went like this. We jumped on him early with a Wexler goal within 2 minutes. And it was basically high pressure, everyone up as a unit, which is what we're trying to get them to do against teams that are not Aris. But we did it against those guys, so it worked. Maybe we'll do it this weekend. And then the rest of the first half was pretty much the Miles Stockman Willis show. He had 3 goals in a very motivated performance in his first match fully back in the squad, I think, after his injury. And that injury kind of saw him hobbled for most of the season, which kind of sucks because we all know what Miles can do for us. He played an incredible Open Cup game when healthy, and then just like a freak injury that just lingered and then caused other injuries. So he hurt his knee, and then his knee caused his hamstring to hurt. And, long story short, he's finally fully healthy, and we're seeing the fruits of his labor. He ended up scoring a first-half hat trick, and then ultimately, as we talk about the second half, a fourth goal. So second half was the same thing with a few half chances for Aris. I thought they put together a couple good runs of play, but nothing really threatening. We saw Big Game James making his full debut coming on in the second half. And then Miles and AO capped off the second half with a penalty goal. And the funny thing was so Miles gets brought down, and then Whitney goes to grab the ball to the kick, and Miles was like, homie, don't play that. This is my game. I'm gonna score my fourth goal. And I have a big rule, like when I'm coaching a team, the guy who gets fouled never takes the penalty.
I've heard you say that, so I was interested.
And
to
you know
see
what?
him step
And you
up
know
and
what?
take it.
And you know why, right?
Because you're fired up. You're feeling like that you deserve the goal, and you're not in the right calm state of mind to really just to really focus on that penalty.
Nate, I am so hard and fast with that rule that I don't let my guy in FIFA take the penalty kick. Because I don't know what the artificial intelligence algorithm is for that. Are they going to
You never know if they're...
You never know.
Someone shares your philosophy on that programmer squad.
Yeah, I have no idea. So I like I said, a hard and fast rule. But anyways, he puts the ball down. Apparently he wasn't hurt that bad on the foul, and knots it home for his fourth goal, setting a Minneapolis City record for most goals in one game. Also, first half hat tricks. Never had that happen. So just writing the record books. And then an aggressively headed follow through goal on a long ball from Aaron Olson. So I don't know who played the ball. I want to say it was one of our center backs. Played a long ball through, and it kind of batted around, and then AO found himself like way up the field in a one-on-one with the goalie, and then he just manned a boy for the header, and the ball went in. So game over, 3 points.
Yeah, I think out in the booth and kind of up and down the stands, it was pretty clear we were playing this game in first gear, maybe even park. I think we denied Aris possession throughout the first half. We were just really content to hold it, and it was almost like we were practicing little 1-2 moves.
Oh, in the first half?
In the first half, it was just kind of let's see who we can kind of deke out with these moves. Let's just try to get cute and maybe get a shot off here and there, especially after we went up so early.
I think that for the second goal we did. I think before then it was like every foot on the pedal.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But then, once I think, if I remember the 8-0 win that we had against Aris, it's like we never let up. And this game, we definitely felt like we let up. We were playing a little more with them. But Miles was not playing. He looked hungry, man. He'd been down with some knocks for a little bit. So it was interesting to see his drive to come out and really make a statement. Because I remember in the preseason, you had mentioned that he was going to play up top instead of the deeper mid role that he played in that cup match. And I was like, yeah, okay, we'll see if this guy's really got it. That just seems like someone that's a little too big for their britches. But it looks like it could be working.
Yeah, we have a bunch of different forward options, right? When you talk about the number 9 spot. So you have Connor, who's more of a bigger, taller target guy. Not quite like an Andy Laurie we had last year, but more, a little bit more fluid of a player. And then you have Timmy Wills, who's going to check back and hold the ball up and looks to link up. Then you have Brandon Bai, who comes in and kind of does both those roles together.
Yep.
But you don't have flash, right? Like a guy with some swag. Mm-hmm. And that's what Miles brings to a forward role for us, is that he has a midfielder mindset, but he also has when I get the ball and I'm going towards goal, you better he's a freight train going towards goal. He's not stopping.
No.
He'll take a guy on 10 times knowing that 1 or 2 times he's going to beat him and he's going to get a chance. So good to see him, back in the mix. So it was a good win, but one that we expected and we're expected to win. And there's a fun fact in here, Nate. We have currently scored more goals against Aris this season than we did in all of play last year in the PLA.
Whoa.
So all right, thanks, Aris, for
cool,
I mean, if you continue to look at our goal differential in our league, like, you know, we're in crunch time now, and that could play a factor as we get closer into the end of the season if we continue to do our job.
Yep.
And
currently we stand at 13, top of the league.
Top of the league with
goal differential. Yep.
Goal differential. And if you think about all the bullshit goals we've had scored against us, it could be even more. But anyways, thanks, Aris.
Yeah, that was cool. So we took those 3 points, we packed up, and we went up to Duluth on Friday. I made a big weekend of it with my family and and a couple other families.
How'd that go?
Of friends, and it was a good time. We did some camping at the KOA, but we started on Friday all together at the match, Minneapolis City versus Duluth, and
Public Stadium.
At the public school stadium, which is actually nice. It was a really old school in a nice facility in the middle of a really garbage neighborhood. And I'll tell you what, the match against Duluth did not change anything for me. I still fucking hate these guys. I hate them to the core of my being, and so did the friends that I brought up. They were like, they left that game thinking the same thing. Like, everyone at that stadium was kind of an asshole. And so we knew that, you and I knew, of course, that emotions would be high, but it was really good to see that when we expect the kind of soccer that Duluth plays, our guys were able to hang in there and give as good as they got. But unfortunately, in all aspects of this game, we got unlucky. And I don't like to peg a loss on luck, but this might be the exception here. So we went up there with pretty much our A team. We had Elder starting in goal. We had Charlie, Ba, AJ, and Nick Hines across the back line, with Steve, Martin, Samo, Whitney, Miles, and Will Kidd. Steve, Martin, and Samo in the midfield. Whitney, Miles, and Will Kidd across the top. And on the bench, Peter Rundquist, Hoof, Timmy, Goose, Connor, and I'm forgetting someone.
Actually, I'm trying to think. No, I think that was it.
Oh, we had a smaller bench.
Yep. Yeah.
So,
we went up, and it was an injury, a last minute injury scratch.
That's right. So for the first 5 minutes, I thought City looked great, and I was heartened by our performance. We came out swinging. We were holding the ball, and Duluth looked slow. But I'm standing there, and I'm thinking these center backs for Duluth are way bigger when I'm down in the bleachers looking at them than when I was up in the booth when they were visiting.
They're big.
Here. They are massive dudes, and this Goonie Ben Tall guy and his counterpart are easily a full head above all of our attackers. So that was something I was worried about.
They're actually they're somewhat athletic too. They're not just like big oafs, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like they can actually move for being big guys.
And we saw that when they, a little bit. We talk about kind of one of them saved a goal, or at least saved a shot with like some quick reaction and a nice slide. But in general, I think we field a smaller, shorter team for this league. But I think that in this game especially, that was worrisome to me on set pieces. And the other question for me was Ba at center back. He's a skinny guy. He's not that tall, and definitely smaller than Kyle Farrar. I knew that could be an issue. Ba and AJ both shorter. AJ's got a little more heft to him, but I think Ba, I was a little worried of him getting run over. And,
but he didn't really get run over. He's not a typical
great
center back. He's
especially when he's struggling with a guy like Farrar who knows how to position himself and he knows where to put his hands on your body in order to kind of give himself that advantage.
Yeah.
Yep. That I think Abdallah did a pretty good job managing that.
Yeah, I think so too.
But Farrar scores the first goal against us like we tend to do. We gave up the first goal and he kind of walked it right in. There really wasn't a whole ton of opposition. I think. He was positioned well as he does, and was just able to slot it in. So that sucked. But like I said, for the first 5 minutes, first 10 minutes, we were looking good. I wasn't too worried about that. But then a handball by Charlie in the box, and I think this is it. Right, we're done already. We're down a goal, and now here's a penalty. But Matt Elder comes through with an amazing penalty save. And I could not believe it because that's just something that doesn't get done at this level. And I think some people, you know, as I was talking to some people in the stands, they were like, yeah, well, he didn't shoot it that well, or Elder got kind of lucky. But, like, he still was able to read the direction the guy was going to. The guy didn't go fully to Elder's left.
Yeah, it was Joe Watt.
Joe Watt was the guy that took that penalty. Didn't go fully to Elder's left, kind of went up the middle a little bit, and Elder was able to get it with more the middle of his body, but it was still a great reaction and a great save, and he kept us in the game, right? Because we had lots of chances in the first half. Miles had a great run, and it looked to me that he was brought down in the box, but it wasn't called. I wasn't able to check out the video afterwards, but from my end of the field, that's what it looked like.
Mm-hmm. I thought so too.
Martin had a shot go off the post, off the crossbar, and then out. That was frustrating. Miles had another great shot off of a counterattack of his, hit the post, then fall at Martin's feet, but then this Gani Bental dude comes out of nowhere and slid in at the last second to deflect what was probably a sure goal. And I thought, in general, just a great first half from City. And you and I were texting at the break because you were watching the video on the plane and I was there, of course. And you thought 1-0, no problem. We're going to score in the second half.
Yeah, you know, like you mentioned, I watched this on a plane on a work trip back from California, and I have to applaud Duluth for having a stream of their matches, as most teams in the league do not have. But holy crap, was it awful. It was kind of a mix between a soccer dad filming just his kid throughout the whole game and then visual whiplash going in and out of soccer dad to full width video. So here's a pro tip for teams, not just Duluth, that are doing streaming. When in doubt, soccer does not need to be zoomed in on, like almost never. You can just have the video out wide enough to capture the action that's going on as a whole, not individually. So now that that's over, overall, my thoughts, the first half, I was like, God damn it, here we go again. And I've said that before, and you can listen to every podcast where we've been scored on first. But this was slightly different, as I thought we played really well. We were unlucky to not have scored an equalizer. And outside of, I thought it was a really nice 1-2 that they had that kind of went in. I don't know who played the ball to Farrar, but the guy collected it down nicely and found a quick pocket that Farrar finds and then just slotted home a finish that I thought was quality. And then I thought, like, you know, the half was even, about as even as you could get it. But let's be honest, without Farrar in that team, they are really just a set of decent midfielders who can whip in good crosses, and then a midfielder in Corcoran who sits deep and who can pick out passes. That's pretty much it. Their whole entire offense goes to this one guy, and when he does his job, they win games. And my last point really is they came out and they weren't total dicks like they were the first time, where they just like kicked us all over the field. However, I feel that quickly changed.
Yeah, something happened. Someone got a talking to in the locker room, because in the second half, you know, we were able to pick up right where we left off.
Well, they don't really listen to their coach, from what I'm told.
Really?
So
they just kind
of do their own thing, and you can tell. Like that guy's just basically just the caretaker on the sidelines.
Well, I can comment on that. But we came out in the second half and we held possession for most of the first 10 minutes. Like, I thought, oh, sweet, we got this thing. We just got to start scoring, and we've got them figured out. For instance, I think Samo, there were a few great individual performances. Samuel Ruiz Plaza was not backing down. Few hard fouls against him throughout the game. And as we'll find out in a bit, he paid the price for it, but he was able to stick with it and really assert himself in the middle of the field in a way that we hadn't really seen in the past. I think usually Samuel is a guy that'll get the ball and be content to kind of move it around a little bit and pass it off, and is just good on possession. But he was able to really start some stuff in this game and to hold the ball and, like I said, assert his presence, and that was great. But then a Duluth counter puts us in a little bit of danger, and it gets cleared. The ball gets cleared behind for a corner, and of course the corner was deflected in by our own guy for an own goal. So suddenly,
another goddamn it moment.
Yep. Like, suddenly this doesn't look as possible to be able to pull back a point here. But we fought hard for the last half hour. We had a number of free kicks that just missed. I mean, off of all these fouls on Samuel mostly, but just a number of free kicks that just missed or were saved shots that skipped just wide. I mean, we just could not buy a goal, and I was just tearing out what's left of my hair.
Well, the one that Nick Hines hit was just like 35 yards out from a left back, just left-footed shot across his body, and then just barely misses the goal. I was like, oh, like the plane was just about to, like, my free Wi-Fi was about to end. And I'm like, oh man, I'm going to miss the rest of this game. But luckily we had to circle for a bit, so I didn't miss it. But that was a really close chance.
But like you said, Duluth came out a lot more physical in the second half. They started hacking. They started
time wasting.
They started time wasting and shoving and things like that. And so you could tell that tempers started to flare as City started to really push the attack and try to get more and more aggressive, and Duluth was able to kind of hold them off physically and tactically with the time wasting and whatnot. I think it was hilarious that AJ was able to incite a yellow out of Sean Morgan. It's kind of I think that's the guy's name, Sean Morgan. But anyway,
yeah.
kind of a turn of the tables because AJ is usually the guy that gets the yellow for someone getting them to mouth off too much. And Morgan went nuts. So I would really love to know what AJ said to him, because it was like he just flicked a switch in the guy, and Morgan came out of his almost came out of his shirt. He was so pissed.
That guy, he's not a bad soccer player, but he's just a mental case.
That's the same fucker that when he scored against us at home, he was running up our sideline, right?
But he didn't even score the goal.
Oh, that's right. He was the assist.
Yeah. Right? Like the guy it's just there. I'll get to it later.
Yeah.
But
Charlie, battling hard on the right side, trading a lot of late tackles and hard challenges until he got a yellow card and later a bloody nose. Of course, Samo took another couple of hard fouls in the middle of the field. And finally, after all this pressing in like the 89th minute, Goose was able to put in a cross from Connor, and we had some life, but it was just too little too late. And the game closed out in a weird way as the ref overruled his line judge, and he called what was a clear corner over to be a goal kick. And then the whistle blew on the ensuing holding play from Duluth, and the game was over. And I'm going to tell you, the ref's inability to control this game all boiled down to the last 30 seconds and the 5 minutes after the game, because Goose immediately starts screaming at the three referees. Meanwhile, for their call because like Goose was telling me afterwards, the referee in the middle of the field overruled the guy who had the best view, as if the referee could have seen through the four guys that it was definitely a goal kick and not a corner.
Right.
So Goose starts screaming at that guy. I'd never seen him that impassioned. Meanwhile, a scuffle breaks out in front of the Duluth and the City bench over there, and it's just like the perfect illustration of how yet again the ref fails to take control of the game, in which one team is notorious for physical and borderline dirty play, and it's something that is frequent in this league, that these referees, for some reason these NPSL North referees cannot assert themselves in the game, and I do not understand it, because as we'll find out in a little bit, it can be fucking unsafe in the end. So overall, I'll tell you, as fired up as I was about Duluth's play, as fired up as I was about the refereeing, I thought this was the best game that City has played all season, and the best NPSL North game I've seen all season. It's really hard to swallow how unlucky we got with all the posts, the crossbars, and the near misses. A few inches here or there, and this could have been a 4 or 5 goal showing from us.
Yeah, I agree.
I thought that the play from Charlie, from Nick Hines especially, he was looking awesome, and from Samuel was especially good. And of course, Miles and Martin, they looked hungry out there, man. They were ready they were ready to score. Miles continued his hungriness, his hungry looks.
I believe the word's hunger.
his hungry eyes, as they say in the Dirty Dancing soundtrack. But Duluth's a big physical team, man. And beyond AJ and his mouth, we just did not have the enforcers to stave them off.
So, Nate, I, like most people, just do not like to lose in general in soccer, and I do not like to lose to a team that plays soccer like Duluth. But we played well, like you mentioned. And this is the only non-win that we've had this season where I was not totally defeated for at least 24 hours after the game. Because it usually takes about 24 hours and I get over it and then move on to the next thing. But it's because we could have done much better. We could have finished our chances, but we played well, and it really was bad luck. I really do believe it wasn't that Duluth played well. I don't want to take it away from them. They played good soccer.
Yep.
For a portion of the game until they fell into the dark side for a little bit. But it really was bad luck, and that's what soccer is sometimes. And it sucks because we really needed those 3 points or at least one on the road to be a little bit safer going into these last few games. But it is what it is, man. But I do have something to say on how the game ended. So I want to make it clear, our guys are not saints, right? Like, they have their own little things they do. We can kick back and we can jaw like any team does. But I think it is totally mind-bending that an opposing team thinks it's okay to come over to a guest's bench and celebrate in their faces. Like, where on earth is that a good idea? What do you really think is going to happen, right? Like, I just don't get it. I don't understand how, an organization can let that happen multiple times. And if you look at, kind of the disciplinary record against the teams that play against Duluth and against Duluth, it's lots of yellow and red cards, for and against, and it's not a good representation of what we want out of our league. Mm-hmm. And it's just stupid and classless, all while all this is happening. The coach is right there joining in on it, and it's just not, it's not cool, man. It's not what we want out of this, and we don't see any other team in the league doing that.
That's some like Turkish league football shit.
Yeah,
where they have to put like cages around the fans,
right, or around the bench, even.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, anyone associated with Duluth, hats off. You played a decent game and you won 3 points. But go back in your fucking locker room and celebrate like a rock star ripping up a hotel room, and not in front of the team you just beat. It's like I said, it's classless. There's no place for it in the game. Yeah. And this is why people don't like you. Win with some dignity. Yeah,
and literally, Duluth, hats off, because your hat is fucking hideous. So one little postscript, John, to this match, and that is we want to give an injury update on Samuel Ruiz Plaza, who, it turns out, played the whole 90 minutes with what we now know was a partially ruptured appendix. John, do you want to fill us in on how that happened and what's going on with Samuel?
Yeah, so I watched the game on the stream, and I get a text message 2 days later. So on Sunday, I get a message from our coach Adam saying, like, have you talked to Samuel? He's in the hospital. And I'm thinking, like, what? How is he in the, like, what happened? So I immediately, hopefully Sam's got his phone on him. I send him a message, and I find out that he came back from the game and was not feeling hot. So his parents took him to the emergency room, and what we find out is that the initial diagnosis was a lacerated liver, and there was some internal bleeding concerns. And from what he described it as, the ball hit him in the stomach when one of the center backs tried to clear the ball out towards the end of the game. So it wasn't a dirty play, which you would think like an internal injury would be something, dirty. So it wasn't anything dirty, but a clearance hit him in the stomach. And what we now find out as after initial tests were he actually had an appendicitis going into the fixture, and like unknown, right? Because you don't like, he's feeling fine going into it and he plays all 90. So actually what ended up, in some people's eyes thinking like this internal injury was a result of dirty play. Yeah. No, it wasn't. It actually was kind of a blessing in disguise, because what they found out on late Sunday night was that it wasn't a ruptured appendix, and through whatever happened, his appendix had, subsided his liver. So that's why the doctors thought that there was something liver related in there, but it was actually
kind of moved around in his body.
Yeah,
down to, like, kind of dropped into his liver zone.
Yeah, something like that. I don't know. I don't fancy myself an MD by any means. No. Maybe a soccer MD. I don't know, but not a medical MD. So long story short, last scan showed there was an appendix thing. A specialist caught it, and they immediately rushed him into surgery. And he had surgery on Monday to remove his appendix, and he's currently recovering nicely at home. So we'll be without Samo, and what we've been told is that, if recovery goes along as intended and we make the playoffs, he could return, but we're immediately shutting him down. And we want him to take care of himself because he has a season at Messiah next, upcoming that we don't want to jeopardize, and we would never want to put someone's health in the way of soccer. So he's recovering nicely. If you want to reach out to him on Twitter, it's at Flozil, Flozil, and you can hit him up. You can send some wishes his way. But I've been told he's doing great, so he may be making an appearance, sitting on the bench, rooting on the guys in the next couple games.
Yeah, I mean, this is definitely an instance of some unluck turning into something lucky, where he took a random ball to the abdomen and it looked like it put him in the hospital, but thank God that he was there, because it could have been much more serious. And I agree. Like, I'm glad we're not going to rush him back. I think that we've got some depth that we can fill him in. But man, for these couple of games, he was a great player to watch, and I'm going to miss him. I'm going to definitely catch him in his Messiah games over the fall.
But we're doing our due diligence, and the roster's closed for the season on Friday, and we're looking at bringing some guys in, and
nice.
We will. So we'll see how that unfolds, and maybe some of those guys, if they're cleared in the next couple days, will make their debuts with us in league play on Saturday.
Great. Well, that's good to know. So we're deep inside crunch time here, and while the boys are going to need to be pulling points out of these upcoming games, we can start taking a look at the table to see how we stand and how we can earn that playoff spot. There were 2 games that were played tonight on Wednesday night prior to this recording, so a few teams will have a game in hand over us here.
And I watched them, so I can provide some color as we go in. Yep.
So the first is Med City at the top of the table. They remain at the top of the table after a scoreless draw away in Sioux Falls, which is a pretty surprising result considering the gulf between the two teams. But soccer is weird.
I have a little bit of color to add to that.
Yeah.
Just doing my due diligence. And
were you sitting in like a bat cave just watching every soccer game tonight?
If you mean by bat cave, my screened-in porch at home, yes.
Nice.
You'd be correct. I had the iPad on. I was doing some of my day job on my laptop, and I had a little screen going on there, and then I had the Chromecast going on a third game. So I was able to catch the action of both NPSL games as well as the Cincinnati game that I mentioned. But the Sioux Falls game against Dakota, or against Med City, I get a tweet from Dan Hudeman, and he says, are you watching this? And he sends me a link, and I click on the link of the starting 11 for Sioux Falls, and I recognize no one. I have not seen any of those guys ever. So it was like a whole nother team that Sioux Falls currently has that ended up playing against Med City. And you see, a draw happen, and you're like, wow, that's interesting, because the team that we played against should never have been on the same level as Med City. But who knows? It happened, and we we move on, I guess.
Yeah, so I mean, when you see that a team is fielding 11 completely different starters, or thereabouts, you think that either A, they are ringers, which is unlikely, or B, that they're going to get rolled over because they're brand new. And neither of those things happened. It was a 0-0 draw, so that's pretty crazy. In second place and holding the second playoff spot currently with 19 points is Duluth. VSLT is in third place, also with 19 points, but they lost to Duluth tonight, 3-2.
Yes.
But they had beat them 4-1 in the prior match. So if I'm right, then the goal differential should be the tiebreaker, and Duluth has that advantage by 1 goal.
Yes, and I did watch that. I watched the second half of that game.
Farrar got sent off, huh?
Yeah, Farrar gets sent off. So Eddie Burrow just throttled him. It was bad. It was one of the worst challenges I've ever seen. No card. Farrar gets up, has to go off injured, comes back on, jawing with the ref, gets a yellow card, and then ultimately later on in the match, another heavy challenge that he avoided to get the ball, and then made a pass and turned around to the referee to say something again, and then the referee stopped playing and sent him off. So really, again, like, that's so unnecessary. You're winning the game, and now you're putting your team in a position to potentially lose the game. And then VSLT comes back, being up a man, and scores 2 goals to equalize, only to see the guy who, I don't even know what his name is, but the guy who scored the equalizer against us at home, he's the guy, he comes on in the second half while they're down a man and scores in the 90th minute, again at the death for that team to win the game. And then there's another injury. There's like 8 minutes or 9 minutes of stoppage time. VSLT had some chances, and a draw there would have been great for us. But considering that VSLT before that match was sitting above us and Duluth was below us, and we have some goal differential stuff, I think that wasn't the worst outcome.
That's for sure. And I think it's going to be an interesting logjam at the top. As we move down the table, it's going to get even more interesting. I think Farrar getting a send-off in any other circumstance would be great for us.
So they play,
except they play Aris in the next game.
Yeah,
so like they don't
I know,
need him.
right?
Like it was the perfect time for him to get that red. But currently in 4th place, Dakota Fusion with 18 points, and we're right behind with 16 points. So with a victory on Saturday, we can leapfrog them and momentarily take 3rd place. And I say momentarily because all 3 top teams currently will play another game on Saturday, so they would each end up with a game in hand over us after that. And this just goes to show how tight it is near the top of the table and how we really need to turn on the Jets for these last 4 games, right, John?
Right, absolutely. I mean, there's no other way to say it than that. We really need to. It's do or die now, and we're in a results driven situation in being summer soccer, and it's a condensed season. We really just need to forget everything else and play our game and do our jobs.
Yeah, and rounding out the bottom of the table is Twin Stars. They've got 11 points. Sioux Falls has 10 currently. But the real story, John, is that a draw against Thunder last weekend gave Aris their first point in what could be years. And they now
since
still
2014.
They now still sit at the bottom of the table, but they have 1 point. So congratulations to Aris. Way to hold off the Sioux Falls Thunder. Was that the impetus for Thunder to totally scrub their roster?
Maybe. I don't know. It was funny because after tonight, I was texting with some of the other city brain trust, and I said, "This league and this season is a fucking Harry Potter novel." Like it's so bizarre, and you're like, "Where did this come from? And is this a real thing?" And who knows, man? Like outside of Med City, who I think we stacked up great against, and even hearing their coach talk to Adam about it and saying like you guys really are the best team we've played, results aside, it just shows how weird soccer can get.
Yeah. So looking ahead, man, and mapping out our road to the playoffs, like I said, we really need all 12 points out of the rest of the season, because with that we would have 28, which is only 4 more than Med City currently has. And Med City's remaining games are against VSLT, Duluth, and us. So it's conceivable that they could stall out and fall behind. If we take the points, Duluth takes the points, and they beat VSLT, we're up a point on them or 2. Duluth, I would say at this point, probably has the easiest road to the playoffs, with 2 of their last 3 games against the bottom of the table, Sioux Falls and Aris. And with final games against us, Aris, VSLT, and Twin Stars, Dakota also has kind of a path to the playoffs. So it's just going to be a crazy finish to the season, even crazier than last year's finish was in the PLA.
If I'm being honest, though, Nate, like out of all the teams that are playoff ready to go outside of our conference and play, Duluth's not one of them.
No, I mean, Med
saying
City's looking okay. I think you're absolutely right.
And I'm not saying that to be like a sore loser because they beat us. But they are not ready to go up against like a Detroit or an Ann Arbor. They're gonna. They don't play the brand of soccer. Like those guys will just roll right over them. And I'm not saying that we're gonna be world beaters in the playoffs or anything if we make it. but Dakota has a better chance, and Med City has a better chance at pulling out a win in the playoffs against the other divisions than Duluth does.
Yeah. So if we sweep the last 4 games and make the playoffs, I predict that we will finish behind perhaps Duluth and maybe tied with Med City and beat them out on goal differential. But we have to start by beating Dakota.
Great segue.
Yeah, I'm the king of segues, man.
So this is a long drive, and like you said, we need 3 points. And every game from here on out counts, and they are a team that we know we can beat. You know, we had a weird game against them this past at home where we were up, and then they came back and they beat us, and some weirdness. And who cares? We lost to them, and now we need to come back and beat them. So just a quick recap on who they are and kind of what they do. They deploy what is basically a 4-5-1 that switches to an all-out 4-3-3 via the long ball when they attack, and it works for them, and it has worked for them this season. So we have to be ready for it, and that's coming, over the top early and often.
So how do we counter something like this? I mean, we've seen teams do it often against us, especially now that we're playing for our playoff lives. We're going to have to learn how to deal with this.
Great question again, Nate.
Yeah, thanks.
King of the segue. Mm-hmm. So we have to be very patient and create a system where we're sitting deep enough for our back line to be running at these long balls, attacking them rather than us being on our heels and in a foot race. Because we've seen in the past where we create a high line and guys go over the top and they just beat us in a foot race. So we have to be sitting a little bit deeper than we normally are. What this doesn't help us with is getting our numbers forward in attack. So if we are to deploy that type of counter to their kind of move, that's what we have to be worried about. That we might be able to stop them from scoring, but how are we going to score? Mm-hmm. But what it also will do is force them into playing a possession style game, which we've seen they're really reluctant to do. And we saw that when we played against them here, where we came out and we pressured them into a spot where we wanted them to knock the ball around, and they were very reluctant. Everything continues to go over the top. Yep. So, it'll be interesting to see what the coaching staff deploys for this game. I would say that maybe we're going to be a little bit more, being on the road, a little more defensive. But, who knows? We've already talked about the Harry Potter novel.
Yeah. So one other thing I remembered from their first game is that their center backs, they have a couple other big guys, a la Duluth, that are kind of tall, and they can deflect, any long balls that we want to perhaps put up and over the top.
Yeah, so that possession style that we play is really going to be important, and it's going to be important to the fact that we keep the ball, we minimize our mistakes in our defensive third and at the midfield, at the neutral zone, if you will. Yeah. Saying that in hockey country here. So in the neutral spaces, we have to not make mistakes because they can quickly counter, as we've seen. The second way for us to beat them is to press high and not allow those center backs get the ball into the middle if they are to go through the middle, and also to deny them the time to hit that long ball over the top, because we know that's what they want to do. Yep. So when our attacking line applies that immediate pressure, everyone has to fill in behind. So we can't have those gaps so that they can feed the ball into a midfielder. Everyone's got to be up, and then hopefully those long balls are stifled or there's an offside situation. So, this will help us neutralize what is likely our first look at Jade Johnson, a very dangerous forward. Yep. And then number 17, Isaac Keeson, who scored against us and came on in the second half, who's also a very dynamic one-on-one player. Yeah. So we have to be very smart about when we go and when we don't go as a unit. But if we get disjointed, like we've seen in the past, it's going to be game over. And I say that with all respect to our team, that we just have to be smart. And I think that, having a guy in there like Dan O'Brien, that may help because, he's a former pro and he reads the game well, and he marshals a team around it, and he does a lot of communication. So hopefully that helps, but we'll see. So as we know now, it's all or nothing, and we have to play with fire, or again, likely a match that could send us home for the summer, unless the rest of the table does us some favors.
Right. Every week I feel like I'm excited for us to kind of take that step and to really assert ourselves in this league, and it's been kind of up and down, up and down, up and down. Mm-hmm. But
that's soccer.
Then that is soccer. But looking at the Dakota's trend, how they've been trending. They have not been trending up. They started high and they've kind of fallen to the earth. So I think that the dog is barking in the background.
Oh yeah, I can definitely hear it.
I think that this is an opportunity for us to probably take what could be the hardest game for the rest of the season because of the long travel and the difficult opponent. Hopefully we can take these 3 points.
Yeah, let's go get them. So that is all for the show tonight, folks. Thank you, as always, to our sponsor, Summit Brewing Company. They continue to pump out quality classics like the IPA or the EPA or the Pilsner, along with a heavy rotation of their Unchained series, recently releasing their 25th version, Nate.
Whoa.
A Vienna-style lager, and it is legit. I've had it. It's so good. So
That's
head
right
on.
Up your alley.
Yep, it's right up my alley. So head to your liquor stores right now. I don't care what time it is. Whenever you're listening to this, get off of work and go buy some Vienna-style lager. Season tickets kind of don't count anymore, as we only have one more home game left, but that is not to say that you don't have to buy one.
Yeah, get a membership.
$60 gets you a 2017 Collector's Edition scarf, a membership vote, and priority on tickets for next year, and of course, Nate, the spiritual reward of soccer, holding soccer close to your heart.
It's true.
If you want to check out our final regular season home game, time is running out, people. Get on it. Maybe you are the type of person who has commitment issues, or you were hibernating, against the heat from the summer, or just, you're coming into town and you want to check out a game. Single ticket games are on sale now for our final match on July 12th against the Twin Stars. $8 gets you in if you buy ahead. Otherwise, $10 gets you in at the door. Head over to mplscitysc.com and get whichever entry method you want to the fun today. If you follow us on social media, you'll know that we are out in the community. We're in the community centers, we're in the parks helping kids with some clinics. We did some stuff with Como Park this past week. And really trying to connect kids to the game of soccer. We were also out at Minnesota Pride Fest. I went out there, brought Gus, sat in the booth for a little while. It was a blast, man. We had a few new fans that came by that didn't know about us that now do. That got signed up and got a free ticket to our last home match, as well as some old fans who stopped by to say hello and talk about how great of a thing we've started. So, and we sold some merch, and we even had a nutmeg challenge which was awesome because we were in a position where there was a thoroughfare. There you go. Thank you very much for that. Yeah. There's a thoroughfare of fans coming through and a lot of foot traffic, and the guys were on either side rolling the ball in between unsuspecting people and getting nutmegged.
Nice.
And we did trip a few people, but we won't talk about that too much. But Miles ran away with it and just totally crushed it. We were juggling with some people outside the booth, and it was just overall an awesome experience. But to keep that fun going and to help others while we do it, we need the help and the support of the people. If you're looking to align yourselves with a fine group that loves to give back, you are in luck. Minneapolis City is a 501c3 that does good on and off the pitch and loves to give back. And of course, every donation that you have and you give is fully tax deductible. Consider giving to the club that gives back. If you want to get a hold of us, we've made it super easy. Or you can send us an email, which you never do, but most likely you'll hit us up on Twitter at The People's Pitch, but the email option is mcscpodcast@gmail.com. All questions, comments, and concerns are welcome. And finally, as always, you can hit the club up at MPLS City SC. That's all for this week, folks. Time to put your winning pants on, bros, and end this season off with a big old bang. We will get back next week with a rundown of what happens in North Dakota and a preview of what could happen in South Dakota. We're going to let you go with our house band, Go Get 'Em Tiger, as they take it away with the newest hotness from their forthcoming EP, which is almost here, Nate. It comes out in July. This is We Live with the Pines. You are the people. I am the John. That is the Nate. Stay beautiful, Crows fans, and let's support our boys as we end the season off right. And we really appreciate the support.
You got hoofed.
All the hoof. Triple hoof.